Hello and welcome to State of the Union. I'm Stefan Grobe in Brussels. Every day we ask politicians about the state of affairs in Europe, about the things that are on people's mind, like the economy, migration, the climate and much more. Now that populism and nationalism are on the rise, we wanted to ask a famous philosopher. What's Europe's future? Should we be worried or is there reason for optimism? Here's our interview with Bernard-Henri Lévy.
Monsieur Bernard-Henri Lévy, bonjour.
Bernard-Henri Lévy, welcome. You're on tour with your play Looking for Europe. Why did you decide to get started on this tour right now?
Parce qu'il y a le feu à la Maison Europe, notre maison commune.
Because today Europe is on fire, our common house of which we are patriots. This house of Europe is today the prey of arsonists. These arsonists are the populists, the enemies from outside who are trying to destabilize Europe.
La Maison Europe, c'est Poutine.
It's Putin. It's Donald Trump. It is, of course, radical Islamism. All this makes the European integration, which we naively thought that it was acquired, that it was enshrined in history, this European integration is threatened today.
Elle allait forcément aller au bout. Aujourd'hui, elle est menacée.
Why doesn't Europe inspire us any longer?
D'abord parce que vous avez des
Because you have other forces that put the European dream to the torch, populists and often neo-fascists. And it's true that Europe has probably not been on top of things.
Cette Europe, elle a probablement été en dessous d'elle-même. Elle est passée politique.
It's not political enough, it's not social enough. It has not been attentive enough to the needs of the poorest.
Attentive au sort des plus démunis et des plus déshérités. Et il y a en Europe.
There are in Europe today many citizens who say that this Europe is not for them.
Qui se disent cette Europe elle n'est pas pour nous. Voilà. Aujourd'hui, il faut.
Today, we need to beat the populists. It's important, though, not to be tempted to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So the first task is to defeat the populists. Then the second task will be for the next European Commission to live up to the challenge. How can we give a boost to Europe in times of Brexit? The fact that the United Kingdom is leaving is already depriving Europe of a boost. Europe will have one power less. Should the UK really leave, that is. It's ruinous, and it's a heavy loss if Brexit is really happening.
La sortie de la Grande-Bretagne, si elle se confirme. Voilà. En même temps,
at the same time, Europe will recover. And contrary to what the Cassandras foresaw, you've seen what really happened. The prospect of a possible Brexit has rather strengthened Europe. Instead of collapsing, Europeans have closed ranks, which means that the European institutions are stronger than we thought. What else happened in Europe? Here's our week in numbers. 1,591. That is the number of words that French President Emmanuel Macron used to rally European citizens away from populism. His European Renaissance op-ed, published in all 28 member states, was his opening salvo ahead of May's European elections. Among other things, he calls for the creation of an agency to protect against cyber attacks. 13 political parties in the EPP requested an exclusion process which would remove Hungarian Viktor Orban and his Fidesz party from the group. There will be a full vote in 2 weeks. Recently, Orban's anti-EU rhetoric has personally attacked EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. And Uber has paid around 2.3 million euros in a settlement in the Netherlands. The settlement was over Uber's service Uber Pop, a service in which people with no taxi license transport passengers in their own cars using Uber software to find customers and handle payments. Two major events of the year with wide-ranging consequences are getting closer and closer. Brexit in a few weeks and the European elections in a little more than 2 months. The first one has a huge impact on the second one because we don't know for sure how the seating in the new European Parliament will look like. We don't even know how many members the new House will have. Here are the details. How many seats in the European Parliament does each country have? So far, the European Parliament has 751 seats, but after Brexit, it will go down to 705. The number of seats per country depends on the size of the population, with a minimum number of 6, like Malta, Luxembourg and Cyprus. The country with the most seats is Germany, with 96. After Brexit, 73 seats will be released. Some will be reserved for the next enlargements, but others will be shared by certain member states. The biggest beneficiaries are France and Spain, who get 5. The other winners are the Netherlands, Ireland, Poland, Romania, Sweden, Austria, Denmark, Slovakia, Finland, Croatia and Estonia. If ultimately the UK asks for a Brexit delay, what happens then? That seems quite difficult to imagine, but we should be open to everything, says Brussels-based political scientist Pascal Delvit. It's hard to imagine that we have MEPs elected in 2019 working with MEPs elected in 2014, especially because there are a lot of things to decide. The election of the new European Commission and its president, for instance. So there are a lot of important things to consider. I believe that the newly elected MEPs won't be happy that the ones elected in 2014 would have any influence in these negotiations. And now look at some top events next week. In London, Theresa May is staring down the barrel of another heavy Brexit deal defeat when the House of Commons convenes for the next so-called meaningful vote on Tuesday. There is currently zero sign of the backstop breakthrough May urgently needs to convince Eurosceptic Tories to support her deal. Also on Tuesday, the third International Donor Conference on Syria kicks off in Brussels. Last year, representatives from 57 countries came together and pledged 7 billion euros. And on Friday, another high-level meeting takes place in Brussels. This time it's the EU-Turkey Association Council. The EU delegation will be led by High Commissioner Federica Mogherini, and Ankara will be represented by Foreign Minister Mevlüt Cavusoglu. That's it for this edition. I'm Stefan Grobe and you can follow me on Twitter. Thank you for watching. I'm going to give the last word to EU Immigration Commissioner Dimitris Avramopoulos with some interesting news. See you next week.
The times of crisis, as we all remember these moments, when hundreds of thousands of people were coming by sea to Greece and Italy, are behind us.